There are also variations of the resume where you can kind of combine the chronological and functional if that's appropriate. As I mentioned earlier in the lecture, another option is curriculum vitae. And again, that is primarily for academic positions or for graduate school and things like that, and doctoral programs. So the CV will be useful again in an academic setting or format. So again, resumes, they're really more of an art than they are a science. And what's good is to get perspective, right? So certainly you can talk to a career counselor like myself or Rose, but also try to kind of get feedback from colleagues, or if you're willing to, and you have a supervisor or someone in human resources or family members that can kind of look out for it. But for the most part, chronological and functional is what you're going to see in most cases. All right, so kind of reverse chronological is the most common style we'll see again. It's in order kind of from your most recent experience and then working backwards from there. This is where the work history is kind of more emphasized. Again, in reverse chronological order, it will highlight kind of the titles you've held and the responsibilities. So we're going to focus on these styles here. So when should you use a chronological style? Again, this is if you have really good, solid experience in a field, and your work experience is pretty recent and you've had continuous work history, right? Like, so years of experience continuously working. If you've taken breaks in your employment, if you're changing careers, if you are a student and don't have much work experience, you might not want to start with the chronological. If you've been unemployed or not working, again, another time maybe not to use this type. But if you've got a strong work history and your education and experience is related to the field, definitely think about chronological. And again, I'll give you examples of chronological and formatting from the CSM Career Center, but on Canvas right now you have access to the UC Berkeley formatting for chronological. So functional resume, it's going to really highlight skills and accomplishments more than really emphasizing the work history and the order, right? So again, that will really talk about skills and accomplishments as the highlights, especially if you don't have a whole lot of work experience, or if you're changing careers, or if you're just starting out. That can be the primary highlight for you to kind of hit those desirable qualifications and requirements of the job, right? It also kind of takes away and de-emphasizes, I like how Rose has put it here, gaps in employment, or if maybe you've had issues at work, or if you've had a situation where it wasn't a good fit, you could really use a functional resume as a way to highlight your skills and experience, instead of them maybe looking and saying, okay, you are only at this position for 3 months, can you tell me why? It also reduces redundancy. So if you've used skills in multiple positions, you don't necessarily have to list those same skills under different job titles. But note that later down the line, I think a lot of folks really accept the chronological resume. So again, this is something if you've had gaps in employment, if you are changing career fields, or if you're primarily have been a student with not a whole lot of work experience in the field that you're going into, this is one that you can use. Some of you might work with recruiters, or you might get hit up by folks on LinkedIn. They usually prefer the chronological type resume because they kind of scan these things, and they would like to see that chronological type. But again, you've got to kind of read the situation and your experience as you go. And some employers will want chronological resumes, especially when it requires a lot more experience. So again, when to use the chronological or the functional is if you have little to no work experience, if you're changing careers, gaps in employment, if there was a situation where you had a very brief stint, that it could de-emphasize that. And also if your last position is much different than what you're trying to do, right? If you are trying to stay in the same field and you already have a good amount of experience, definitely want to stay with a chronological, so don't use a functional. If you have really good solid employment history that's shown growth and progression and kind of continuous employment, you also don't necessarily want to use a functional style resume, because a chronological one will be more powerful. And again, the chronological is the most widely accepted, so really using the functional only in these type of cases, okay? A lot of students come into college without a whole lot of work experience in the field that they want to go to. So again, it's okay as a starting point, and then you can switch over to the chronological as you gain more experience, right? So if you have any questions about the assignment that's going to be posted about you developing a draft of a resume, a one-page resume, just let me know and message me on Canvas or email me. What I could do as well is give you additional examples, like I said, on Canvas from the Career Services website, okay? What you could also do is really look at some templates that are available. This is something that I caution you with, because you don't always want to have too generic of a resume, and employers can also tell when it's like a generic templated one. But if it's helpful, we have some formatted templates to make it look aesthetically pleasing that you can use as a starting point. But you want to definitely have your flavor and personality shine through as well, okay? So here on College Central Network, I can definitely post the resume builder for you, and it's going to include some templates. So definitely use all of the resources possible. LinkedIn has some really great resources to help you too with resumes and cover letters. But again, as career counselors, we really can take the time to sit down with you for 30 minutes or an hour to kind of take a look at your resume. And it's really helpful if you bring a laptop, or if you've saved it on Google Drive, you can work on one of your computers here, and we can really refine that resume for you. So I hope that this has been a helpful starting point. Again, if you want more in-depth detail, come see us in counseling, but also consider taking the Career 127 course, the job search, and we really dig deep and spend quite a bit of time on resumes, cover letters, job search, interview, and all that great stuff. So I hope you have a good Turkey Day break, and we will see you next week.